Hey, what's up, guys? It's Zach, and today I'm going to talk about my process when I go to make something. But instead of keeping it like strictly about me, I'm going to use my process as a guide to kind of talk about the creative industry as a whole. Specifically, I'm going to give my views on the continued democratization of production methods, how the experience is having the effect that the screen did to the previous generation, and some practical recommendations of processes and tools to kind of be on the lookout for, like I said, in the present and just stuff to be looking forward to in the future.
And for those who aren't familiar, my name is Zach. I'm a creative director, although I don't personally use the caveat director. I just use creator. So I break that down to designer and developer, an idea and production. What you're seeing now is some of the work I've worked on from like art directing at agencies or just some of my stuff that I've worked on. Pretty much when I go to start anything, I start with what is the idea. So it's like whom's desire need to be met through the manifestation of this idea. So like for instance, if it's a personal piece, then obviously like what do I want to do? But like if it's for a client or for a business or something like that. So what autonomous goal can be set from like a perceived here to a there? And the next part of that is the production. And then by production, I mean like how is that idea situated in reality? Like how can it be brought to life aesthetically? Because just an idea itself is just immaterial. You can think of like a full camp flog gnaw or something. You know what I'm saying? Just the most elaborate, which incorporates like aesthetics of music, visual aesthetics, like all these different layers. But until it's brought into life, it's just immaterial. Personally, when I go to start anything, I just try to establish that the aesthetic. I do that for my own clarity because, like most people, I wake up to a brand new world every day and kind of semi forget what happened the day before. So it's good to have that. What is the goal? Like, what is there? That way, it's easy to aim for. To like know we are here and how clearly can we get to there. And I'll also look at like other people's work, like Behance, Dribble, Instagram, real life things, like just taking pictures of stuff. Like I have so much stuff saved in my phone, or like notes saved on my phone, hundreds of Pinterest boards, just stuff like that. So just drawing inspiration from stuff. I kind of compile all that like aesthetical mood board and then like production mood board into in a game plan of like how I'm gonna bring that together. And I do that in Illustrator, and a lot of the other like immediate things I'll go to outside of that is like Photoshop, After Effects, Premiere, which kind of does bring me to the first thing. Honestly, I don't recommend anything outside of the Adobe suite just because you get so much bang for your buck now. And the industry almost moves with Adobe as a whole. So almost like even if you could get out of just using that and wanted to become a professional, or even just like collaborating with other people, just like the ease of having everything with Adobe and the way they're really stretching the boundary between 2D and 3D. Like you can do a bunch of 3D stuff in Photoshop. You can do a lot of 3D stuff like there's this native Cinema 4D plugin in After Effects, so that like brings in some 3D stuff. And they recently have Dimension for 3D and then Arrow for AR, which I'll get into a little bit more specifically later. But those are just some of like the things that you get for that, all that, which is really goes to a theme that you're going to see throughout this. The fact that Adobe puts all those things at such a low price makes it so everyone is able to use it. So it really democratizes the way and the methods that people create with. So for instance, someone in the United States is using the exact same tool as someone in India right now, which was a lot harder to happen 20 years ago, 30 years ago, impossible 40, 50 years ago. So this means everything that can be created by this software now becomes globally competitive. Just this in itself shifts the industry as a whole. Like there is a standard that almost the world uses. Like when you look at the way Adobe has shifted the way everyone approaches texturing, just with their introduction of Substance and Substance Painter, Substance Material, like that completely changes the way the world pretty much handles textures. Things you can't really do in the Creative Cloud is like medium to advanced 3D stuff. So like even modeling, like you can't model at all in any of the Creative Cloud stuff. You can just kind of like set scenes and stuff in Dimension, which is cool. And is a good introduction. There is good free alternatives for that actually. Blender is a really, really good free alternative, which is what I'm gonna recommend here and recommend at the end. Cinema 4D is what I personally use because the 4D is time and because it's really good with time and motion and stuff like that. So that's why I use that specifically. But there's also like Maya, Houdini, 3D Max, and a ton of other stuff. And actually, the big thing that happened recently with a bunch of those is kind of because Adobe was offering, and just like a bunch of other people in the industries surrounding, started going to subscription now. So like Cinema 4D subscription that were like thousands of dollars before This once again has the exact same effect that I mentioned before. It now lets those same people in India be using Photoshop and, you know what I'm saying, Cinema 4D, or like anyone can just come up using Blender now for free and just watch some videos on like how to do that instead of like going to film school and learn VFX for like $400,000 or something in a crazy school. And that's not even to say necessarily that everyone needs to be in like VFX or animation or film in general, but this just goes to more of a broader trend that I see of moving from like the 2D image to the 3D experience. Like you see a ton of recent investments on IKEA with like the AR of like placing things in your house. You see it in gaming, obviously with like AR and VR gaming, the headsets. Um, Obviously, like even with the military, you see like the high end HoloLens headsets, which are thousands of dollars, which can do crazy stuff. But I think what's really going to democratize it down, where everyone has the ability to create on the platform and can really make it more than just like a piece of technology, is going to be the Apple glasses, where it's going to be like when the iPhone came out. When we had the hardware in our hand and an app store and the software to like coincide in the same object to be able to take advantage of it. I think that's what the Apple glasses is going to do. It's going to take everything we see and just take it and make it customizable. And when we go to see 2D content from then on, it's still going to be seen in 3D. So it's almost going to be a disservice not to at least be aware of how that realm operates and how we're going to start seeing in the future. If you're someone who's going to be creating, like I said, even if it's 2D, how are you going to see that in a 3D space? And a lot of the most practical ways of like how this actually ends up coming into fruition of like how do I go from this piece of art to in a 3D space, or how do I go from even a 3D model to putting it on something, is game development engines, because you can develop for like a phone, a computer, glasses, VR, AR. Like you can develop for a wide variety of things all in the same thing, and deploy it across a wide variety of platforms. Unreal and Unity are two great options that are both free. And they have a ton of great resources online that I both recommend picking up one of them. Unity's a little easier for beginners, but both of them have a ton of free assets and stuff on their stores. And then there's also sites like Sketchfab and Turbo Squid and stuff like that that offer free assets as well, that you can start getting on there and just messing around, and at least familiarizing yourself with how this world operates and how you can set logic to things, how you can start to build systems and then like events, so you can start to really craft an experience. And even if it's just for like demonstration purposes, like if you were, especially now that with the pandemic and everything, that everything's moving online, it makes pitching even that much more important. So even if it's just to illustrate like, oh, this is how I would do it if I was to do a show, or if I was to like, if this installation or this piece of architecture, like it's a great way for people to experience things. And like I said, once it's on the glasses, I think it's really going to make it where, like, why wouldn't you want to be able to experience that? Like, why wouldn't you choose the brand that conveys themselves the most authentically? Like, that's what we look for now, authenticity. Even with like the dine-in restaurants and stuff, we always look for authenticity. We want to go somewhere. We don't want all the restaurants crammed to one place to go. We want to go sit down and experience something. And even from a creator's point of view, like, why wouldn't you want to embrace the medium that conveys your message as aesthetically clearly as possible? Like, as a creators, we want to convey the message as clearly as possible, and as the consumer, we want it being conveyed as clearly as possible. I think this just opens up whole new dimensions for creators to create within, that allow them to communicate like the truths of this time more authentically than anything else can, because nothing can truly convey a feeling more than just like fully experiencing it. So the closer and closer we get to that, like the glasses, Neuralink, things like that, like people like actually fully experiencing things and people being able to storytell through that. So like Shakespeare would be just as good back then as he would be with like VR or Neuralink, because he understands how to write stories and understands how to convey messages. So as far as the future, I think obviously mixing 2D and 3D are going to be huge going forward. But just on some practical things, it doesn't even have to be 3D in general. I think it really just has to do with like mixing talent. So even if you're really good at like art and music or something, being able to craft something, a full aesthetic, is going to be priceless going forward. And then just like utilizing the tools that like most effectively let you do that. But yeah, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it, and have a good day.